Hi, and welcome to Grow Love Girl. I'm Tanya,
I'm Adriana.
and today's topic is red flags.
Ooh,
We are going to talk about top 10 red flags in relationships.
really important topic, whether you're in the beginning of a new relationship or in the midst of a long-term relationship. It's something you really need to be aware of. And also look in yourself. Are you doing these things?
Absolutely. And we actually struggled coming down to 10 because there are quite a few additional red flags that you might see or should be aware of. So just keep that in mind. These are not exclusive. There are others also that could potentially be red flags, but we thought these were kind of most important to start with.
And
So
some of these are
here
really,
you go.
and some of these are really indicative of maybe a mental health issue or a personality disorder, right? And we've learned through experience that you can find signals or true red flags of these very early, and that you miss them or you push them aside, or you say, oh, that's nothing, or you make accommodations for it because you're a nice person and you're trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. But sometimes they're really significant ones that you need to pay attention to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it all comes down to really developing, that self-trust
Mhm.
and learning to trust yourself, to listening to your inner voice, and being very discerning and not letting these people into your life once you see one or more of these red flags. Really thinking of it deeply.
Yeah,
Continuing on the path of something that could be very destructive.
yeah. And really aligns with some of our past discussions around self-worth, boundaries, right?
Hmm.
So some really important crossovers. So what is your number one red flag?
So my number one red flag is, ta-da, drum roll. Words and actions do not align.
Oh my God, that's totally my number one as well. I
Are
can't
you
believe
serious?
yes, we picked the same one. That's crazy. Oh my
That
gosh.
is crazy. That's
That's
how we know it's true, right?
true. It's a
Yeah, I
huge
think this one
thing.
is so important, right? Like both of us had experiences with this, and there's so many examples of this, where somebody can put you in a pedestal in public and really say, "Oh, you're just this amazing person and the best wife and an amazing cook," and then in reality, it doesn't show up every time you make dinner.
Yeah.
So what they speak versus what they do. And sometimes this one takes a little bit of time to realize because it may not show up at the very beginning when they're trying to impress you and really
Yeah.
envelop you into their powers,
Yeah.
right?
Or they make simple excuses, right? They make a small promise and then fall back on it. Oh, I just got busy or I ran into someone. But that
Right,
repetition is indicative of an issue, right? Or they say,
right.
I never do this or I never do that. And guess what? You find that they do it. And they're like, well, I usually don't ever do it, right? Though they can be micro actions or really large demonstrations of falling back on
Yeah.
the word.
Yeah. Bottom line is pay attention when you have that weird feeling where something's off and you're like, wow, he said that, but look at what he did. And look,
Right,
he did that again.
right, right.
That is not
And bring it to the table and say, hey, I notice this keeps happening, right? Then we'll get to another topic about gaslighting, but that might be, if they push back and say, no, no, that's not it, right? Really hold
yeah.
it true and make that a boundary. Your actions have to match your words, but you also need to reciprocate, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, that gets you into trouble
And
too.
I think that's usually who you are, right? Like that's not something that changes.
Right. Oh, exactly.
If you are an honorable person, your actions do match your words. You keep your promises, you communicate if you can't.
Hmm.
But I think if you're an honorable, person whose intent is pure,
Yeah.
your actions will match your words. It's not going to change. You're not going to dilly dally. So yeah.
Something to,
So the next one I have. Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
The next one we have is where someone is very quick to
Hmm.
profess love for you.
Oh, yes. Moving too fast.
Yes, moving way too fast.
I like this one. That's a really good one. Yeah, I've had some really, really good examples of just dating someone for a few weeks and you get the I love you, I want to be
Hmm.
exclusive. I even have an example where I was just talking to someone, met someone online, and we were just talking, and they said to me, I want to be exclusive with you. Don't talk to anyone else. Don't date anyone else. And we hadn't even met in person. That was a
Yeah.
huge red flag.
Yes. And I'm glad you have not met in person after that.
Yeah. Bye bye. Yes. Did you ever have
Yeah,
someone give you the I love yous too fast?
I did. Yeah. I had
What
somebody who
happened?
was, yeah, he was giving me the I love yous too fast and he was expecting me to say it back. And I
Wow.
was uncomfortable and he really was uncomfortable with me being uncomfortable.
Wow.
And and that's also going to be another topic of ours, but that was him ignoring a boundary of mine, right? I
Hmm.
wasn't ready. He did not agree with that. He wanted me to say it back even though I wasn't ready, and that was a huge red flag, and that was actually the end of
Wow.
that dating story.
Good for you. Good for you for recognizing that and moving along. Yeah. So I had one for me, my number three was gaslighting. And it can
Mhm.
be really hard to recognize, right?
Yes, yes. Takes time, absolutely. Gaslighting is very tricky
The traditional
because I think they're
definition,
very
yeah, is someone saying to you that you're crazy, and something didn't happen when it actually did happen, and them trying to prove to you that you're the crazy one or there's something wrong with you or you're misinterpreting something, right? That's really the traditional version of
definition,
gaslighting.
right? And I think what's even worse with gaslighting is if somebody's self-esteem has already been damaged and
Mhm.
you already don't trust yourself, right? And then you have somebody who is kind of increasing there and saying, well, did you or didn't you do this?
Mhm.
Well, maybe I am crazy. Maybe I just made this up,
Right.
and you start questioning yourself. And I think it
Ugh,
can actually turn you into an insane person, right?
yeah, very
If you kind
insecure.
of go along with it and you believe them.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a friend whose ex-partner actually would move things around the house or make physical things around the house change, and then, to just to mess with her, and absolutely was trying to impede on her sense of, am I crazy or not? Like, it was really, really intense.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
It
It's
is a scary thing. Yeah. And I think that's one to definitely pay attention to.
mhm,
And I think, the next one kind of goes along with all of these. It's the gut feeling of something being wrong, right? And also being able to identify whether it's really something wrong with this relationship or is your
yeah,
gut feeling
yeah.
having something to do with the triggers from the past.
Absolutely. Trauma survivors, right, have a really hard time listening, understanding, and having a capability of having a true gut feeling, right? Because
Mhm.
your body is in protective mode. Even if you're out of the traumatic situation, your body is constantly fielding what could potentially be a traumatic situation. And so that
Right,
gut feeling is overactive. And it's
right,
really hard to say, is this real? Am I really feeling this gut issue, or is it a trigger and reactionary?
right, absolutely. So it's like on one hand, yes, listen to the inside voice, right? Listen to your gut feeling, but on the other hand, try to sit with it and really figure out where it's coming from.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really important. How about, let's see. Um, I had, love bombing. Love bombing. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, this can be a tricky one and can happen very early in a relationship. I've had an experience where it happened late in a relationship to kind of keep you in, lure you in, right? Intense highs.
Hoovering. There's a word for it. Hoovering is when they
Oh,
try to come back and get you back in. Yeah.
yes, that's exactly it. I was hoovered. I can't believe it. I didn't even know
You
that
were
was the word
hoovered. You were
for
love bombed and hoovered. Yes.
it. Um, so what are some examples of early love bombing?
Yeah. So love bombing is when there's a little bit too much too early,
Hmm.
and it could be just these amazing gifts and trips and, expensive over the top experiences that just feel so good because you feel so loved and put on this pedestal and you feel like a princess. But also, you don't quite have this level of a relationship yet where it's just a little bit too early and somebody's really, really trying to impress you.
Yeah.
And the key here is that it's not going to be sustained, it's not going to continue. It's just
Yeah.
for the short period of time to kind of get you into his net, this
Yeah.
spider person trying
Yes.
to catch beautiful princess into his net.
Yes, that's horrible. What a villain. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also, it's hard sometimes to distinguish love bombing versus a really intense crush, and you're crushing on someone. Oftentimes a new couple will have very strong verbal crushes and say, "Oh, you're so amazing. You're so attractive. I really care about you," or "I love this about you." And that's different than love bombing. Love bombing is
Yes.
that really obsessive, over intensive, and out of the
Yes.
ordinary expression of love, right? And like you're
Over the
saying, way
top.
too early, way too early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our next topic, our next red flag is a very powerful one, and that's
Mhm.
isolation.
Oh my gosh.
So
Yes.
when your partner attempts to cut you off from your family and friends in
Mhm.
sometimes very manipulative ways by creating conflict and using what he knows about you in your past as a weapon
Mhm.
to create conflict in your relationship with your family and your friends, and to essentially cut everybody off from you so you're left alone and kind of powerless to defend yourself against them, right? You're just all by yourself and you don't have anybody to share with. You don't have anybody that will help you and
Yeah.
also help you see, right, how unwell this person may be and how they're treating you unwell.
Yeah, really grooming you for that abuse cycle and
Right.
getting helpful people out
Absolutely.
of your life. I've had an experience where a partner told me, your friends don't really like you. They just like what you buy for them. They just like that you give them gifts. And that's putting a wedge between you and someone else. And it's really inappropriate. Like when you start hearing those things, like so and so doesn't really like you, they just like what you give them, or they just like what you do for them. Even like a family member or a best friend, that's really, really horrible. And that's definitely a red flag. And when you're in a long-term relationship, that might be something really difficult to pick up on. And it
Yes, and not only does that throw a wedge between you and your friends and family, but it also affects your self-esteem because part of it is telling you that you're not worthy of their love and their friendship, right? And that
wow.
they only like you for your gifts, not for who you are,
Oh my
which
gosh, that's
is
such a great
a
point.
jab at you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So they're twofold, bringing your esteem down and then putting a wedge between you and someone else. That's an excellent point. I didn't think of that. Yeah.
Right, absolutely. And I think also when you are isolated from your family and your friends and you have nobody to talk to, nobody to support you, that abusive individual really has a lot of control over you, right?
Yeah.
And they increase their control by creating all this conflict with you and your family and friends, right? And you have
Yeah.
really no place to go and nobody to turn to other than them. So they increase your dependency on them, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Absolutely.
that's been my story with my longest relationship. And luckily, I would see it and I try to fix it. I always tried to figure out what was wrong because I thought maybe there was truly
Mm.
an issue between my
Mhm.
family in this situation and my ex. While it didn't matter because his goal was just to isolate us from each other. It wasn't to fix something. So no
Mhm.
matter what they apologized for, no matter what I tried to talk to him about, it never worked
Wow.
because there was no problem to solve. Their only problem was him wanting to manipulate me into, not talking to them.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry about that. That's horrible. That's really scary. And it's great that you recognize that and that you were able to keep that bridge with your family and your loved ones open. Just on a side note, that can spill over into children if that person that partner has that manipulative tendency, that can spill over very easily into kids or other loved ones, and then
Yeah.
really using that tactic. So as a parent, it's really important to observe for that and be careful, right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. We've had a lot of those experiences post separation.
Mm,
And children is probably a separate show that we can talk about. I think there's
mhm.
so much to say there, right? And
Absolutely.
co-parenting, parallel parenting, and
Hmm.
all
Yeah.
of that good stuff.
So how about this one? And this can come up very early, but
Yes,
saying all of their exes were crazy, and that all of their exes were the problem, and really blame shifting on their exes.
absolutely. That's such a big one for me as
Yeah.
well. I've definitely had that with my ex who said that his exes were psychos and
Oh,
had all
wow.
these horrible things to say about them. And in the same at the same time, I think you brought up something called green flags. To
Yes.
me, a
Yes.
green flag would be if somebody speaks kindly over their ex.
Oh, yes.
If somebody speaks nicely of their ex and says, and like owns kind of their part in what happened and may say,
Yes.
well, I did something, she did something, and it didn't work, right? But if it's all about them being crazy and whatnot, that's
Mhm.
definitely a red flag.
I love that. Yeah. So the opposite is amazing and very healthy, right? And take
Hmm.
that as a lesson for yourself. You really have to assess, am I blame shifting everything? Am I taking accountability for things that I've done wrong in past relationships or in my current relationship? Right? What does my own voice sound like? Yeah, but that's a great example.
And then one about other people, right, that goes along with this is speaking
Mm.
badly of or not having a good relationship with their parents or family members.
Oh, that's a
Having
huge one.
yeah,
Yeah.
dramatic gaps in communication. My ex had many years of not speaking to his sister when we met. I think you've
Mhm.
had similar experiences as well, right?
Yeah, and if they say, "Oh," it's very similar, like, "Oh, it's all their fault," or "They don't understand me," or, "They caused this issue." May be the case, but there's a place of healing and understanding, and then there's a place of they're not the issue, right? That
Right.
person is the
Right.
issue, and it's such a
Yeah.
flag. I think we're very forgiving of people up front, right? Like, "Oh, right, I believe you. You're my loved one. Of course it's their
Yeah.
problem," right? Yeah.
Right. Right. And it comes down to, I think we talked in one of our other shows about having that be a virtue, right? Our
Mhm.
kindness is a virtue because we're so accepting and we love them and we want to trust them and want to believe
Right.
in their goodness, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a hard middle ground, especially for women, right? They're nurturers, they are looking for love,
Yeah.
and it's easy to fall into that trap.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Um,
also speaking poorly to wait staff if you're out to dinner. I think that's one red flag that goes along with this. They can be identified quickly, like even could be on your first date, right? If they're
yeah.
not treating a waiter or waitress
Are you,
nicely, politely.
yeah, are they cruel or condescending to others? Even their own family members? Are they mean to their parents? Are they cruel to their parents? I've been in relationships where that was absolutely the case, and it's heartbreaking to see, right? And if they're mean
Yes,
to wait staff or folks that are service folks and really not respectful and giving them common courtesy, it's all in the same frame,
I
right?
totally agree. Yes. And they say, right, if you want to see how the man's going to treat you, see how he treats his mother.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
wish I had I wish I had paid attention to that lesson a long time ago.
Yeah, well, that's what we learned, and it's for the better now, right? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So how about in a long-term relationship, if they put you down, mock you, make fun of you in front of others, but then say, "Oh, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding," or you can't take a joke. So that's a little bit of gaslighting, but any types of put downs, or if they put down other people or make fun of other
Yeah.
people in front of them, that is huge. That is huge, right? That's embarrassing. That's showing that your partner doesn't respect you.
Yeah,
Um,
it's humiliating because you're in public, right? And you're in front of other people. In my case, it was done in very manipulative ways where it was something sometimes very small
mm,
that
Mhm.
may not obviously think, oh, he's being mean. Is he being mean? And you would kind of question
Mhm.
yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like pointing out, I remember we had a situation where we went out to dinner and he was pointing out a stain on my shirt that was
Yeah.
kind of in my nipple area.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
he's like, "Oh, you're lactating," in front of, this other couple we're with, which was
Oh,
completely
no.
inappropriate,
Yeah.
and it wasn't funny.
Yeah. 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 Oh,
But he was
that's
kind of like making light of it and, joking, but with something that was not okay,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've had the same, just pulling stuff out to, stuff that you would, as a couple, would normally know or understand, but putting you down in front of others about it, just to make them feel better about themselves or bigger about themselves, whatever it may be, and then saying, I'm just kidding, or you're too sensitive, get over it. That is
Yes.
extreme. That's emotional abuse. That's gaslighting. That is a huge issue. And
Yes.
if they can't take that feedback and say, this is not okay with me, then you should look for help. That's really important. So, how about a big one for both of us that we talked about before? Do you know what it is?
Is it silent treatment?
Yes, yes. Oh, it's the worst.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
worst.
It's the worst. Yes. I think we have to do an episode just on the silent treatment, but definitely can be identified as a red flag and maybe not so big at the beginning of the relationship, but I think you can watch with tiny signs of them,
Yeah.
treating you slightly differently if you said something or did something they didn't like, where they
Hmm.
just withdraw it. They
Yes.
withdraw their attention, they withdraw their kindness, they withdraw their love, and they be very kind of civil with you, but not affectionate,
Hmm. They're
right?
short
They may
tones.
withdraw sex.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, treat
I've
you
had,
like a child, speak with you sternly. Yeah.
yes. I've had experiences of stonewalling where it was days, like literally days before my partner would speak to me. And that falls right into personality disorder and emotional abuse. There is a way, through therapy, I've learned there's a way to say to your partner, I need some time. I will come back and talk
Yeah.
to you about this. This is important to me, but I need to gather my thoughts. I need to understand how I feel about this and process. But you have to say, I'll come back in 20 minutes. We'll talk about it
Mhm.
tomorrow.
Mhm.
I may need some space in the moment. That's fine. But to immediately cut someone off for days and literally be in the kitchen and not talk to them, be in, pretending like you're
Be in
living
the same bed
in
and
the
not
same
talk
bed.
to each other.
Yeah,
Right.
that is emotional abuse, and that shows such immaturity. And is a
What would
huge,
fix it for you? What would make them talk to you after the weeks or whatever or days
it would be me
usually?
reaching out. It would be me, constantly reaching out or giving them
Yeah.
some time, and saying, "Can we please talk about this?
Yeah.
What's
So
going on?"
with me, it would be the same, and then I would have to apologize.
Right, right, right. Yes.
So no matter what it was, I would have to apologize, and that will fix
Wow.
it. Yeah,
Wow.
and that's how you'll know because it will come back, it will be
Mhm.
something else. It will come back over and over again. So it's like these cycles of silent treatment and stonewalling, which are entirely and completely emotional abuse that are so painful and
Mhm.
so exhausting, right?
Mhm.
Because you are constantly finding yourself feeling guilt and shame
Yes.
for something where you haven't done anything wrong.
Yes, exactly. And I think if you're watching this and you're experiencing that, it's time to get help. It's really time to address that with a professional, because it's not okay. It's not healthy. And it
No.
can be really scary. And if children are involved, it can be, very scary and hard to go about your day and your life, if your partner's stonewalling you, and it is abuse, absolutely. So we had a million other ones. I think we have to do a second video around red flags, but I like that we address
Red
things that
flags part two.
part two. Yes, I like that we address things that can happen early in a relationship, but also be in a long-term relationship. I think that was really good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Please give us your comments, give us your feedback and questions that you might have so we can address them in the next Red Flags Part 2 series. And
Yep.
thank you as always for your time. Thank you for watching us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for joining. See you soon.